black men today as times are changing. Some of you all may have read the book Celestine Prophecy. We understand that there's always a transition in this happening, no matter what no matter what it is. So where you may grow deeper into your religion, some are growing deeper into their spirituality. People are meditating now. People are aware of energy and positivity and negativity. AV, how would you define where you are currently within your spirituality?
I think spirituality is just about awareness. You know what I mean? About understanding both, who you are and what's around you and how those things impact one another. You know what I mean? How I impact my environment and people around me, how the people around me and my environment impact me, whether it be your family, your work, whatever. From an energy standpoint, what I've been focusing on, energy to me, or what's important about energy, can be boiled down to like momentum. You know what I mean? That if you take off running in that direction, it's way easier to keep going the way you're going than it is to turn around and go a different way. And so being mindful of how you're moving and putting energy into that, I think is the best way to get a return on that. So if I want to have a great day with my family, I need to start like that. You know what I mean? I need to start positive. I need to start with love. I need to lead with that. Because if I lead with anything else, it's going to be hard to pivot at 12 and come back and say, baby, I was an asshole this morning. Yeah, real sorry. You know what I mean? Right. Way easier just to be the best husband possible at 8 in the morning. You know what I mean? Then it is to try to recover. So I think that's what I'm thinking.
Nice. And how you piggyback off of that?
Man, I definitely want to piggyback because of the energy standpoint. To me, I think energy is similar to what we're doing now, the fellowship, being the camaraderie, being around each other, spreading those good vibes, those good things, those good transitions, amongst each other, man. And back to the part as far as spirituality, man. I think, honestly, in the times like now, manifestation is huge. Good. Whatever you want, whatever you desire, speak it. You can get it. It's yours. All you got to do is just see it, speak it, and it's yours. So definitely, good point.
And I like that because kind of like what we were talking about earlier with the cigar, and your mobile cigar business. The biggest thing is why is that? That's not a big goal to accomplish.
Right.
That's not a big mountain to jump over.
Absolutely.
You doing what you want to do. That's why I'm really trying to push you. You can do this.
Yeah.
You can get the mobile cigar lounge at homecoming next year with no problem.
Absolutely.
Because you think about it, it's not like you're trying to beat cancer.
Right.
A lot of times whenever I set my goals up and I line my manifestations up, I say, am I making this bigger than what it is? What actually has to happen in reality for things to happen in my favor?
Right.
If you're in $100,000 of debt, and there's billionaires that exist in the world, really, how hard is it for you to get $100,000 out of debt?
Right.
You can go get that in a scratch off.
Yeah.
One of my best friend Pops put up on the side of the road and $150K in a scratch off. Just like that. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes as humans, I'll say that we make things sometimes a lot more difficult than what it is. And to also, too, I think energy for me is understanding the laws that we live by. Yeah. Whether you believe them or not, believe that the law of gravity exists or not, it exists. Yeah. Because it affects you on a daily basis.
The things you can't see, especially.
The fact you hear already is remarkable.
Exactly.
Just from birth to now.
Yeah.
It's remarkable. I think also if I may add to this, I think when you're talking about energy, you have to be really responsible with that, right? Yeah. So for me, I get my best thoughts when I'm working out, right? Because my mind is much more free and it's spinning. So I always tell myself and other people I'm talking to that when you are talking about mindfulness and energy, you also need to be responsible by backwards planning. So not where you are right now, but where are you going to be at 40, and what does that life look like? And from there, you literally need to be responsible enough to write that down to your day. And so when you back it all the way up to your day one, you know what your steps are going forward. So if you want to make 100 million, literally, what are the books on 100 million? What are the entrepreneurs that are there? You need to be in those spaces with them because they think a lot differently than you are. So you gotta be there. So so I'm a huge fan of that, but also in terms of an athlete almost. You gotta train your mind to make sure that you stuff that, because once you get that goal written down, your mind and the way that athletes work, thinking about your mind in that way, it'll get in shape. And everything that used to matter won't matter anymore. Right. So you got to get focused in that particular lane in order to accomplish that goal. Because once it's clear, it's clear.
So Sam,
I'm gonna catch something he just said. So he said, like an athlete, you got to train your mind.
And so I'm reading this book right now. It's called The Master Key System. And I recommend it to
Me too, I'm reading it
everybody,
right now,
right?
too.
Master Key System, it tells you that thought is energy in the same way energy is thought. So with spirituality, like you were saying, it's all about how you start, right? So you take that thought, and if you want it to be a positive influence, you got to think positive things, but it's not easy. We got that fear factor where we come in, we make things a lot harder than we think it should be. So then you got to train yourself to say, you know what, whenever that fear creeps in, nah, bring it back. I'm going to make it positive. Anytime negativity comes in, nah, bring it back, make it positive. But that's where we struggle with the connection of taking your spiritual energy and saying, you know what, dang, the sun is shining. Sun is shining because I'm out walking. You know what I mean? I could be out walking and saying it's raining and it's pouring and take the negative. Like, nah, you know it's hot. But it's because I'm out here. I'm out here walking. That's my energy. So now it takes the plants, and the plants just bloom a little bit better. Everything shines a little bit brighter because that energy I'm putting out is coming into me, and I'm shining right back out. Like, oh, it's a beautiful day out. Like, I'm here, I'm walking, I'm alive. And you got to take those 24 hours and just say, you know what? I slept half of my 24 hours. I woke up at 10 today. You know what I mean? So I got 8 hours or so to do my positive, do something good. And I might not get tomorrow. I got to say the things I mean to say. I got to love the people I mean to love. Even if I hurt you, let me acknowledge it because tomorrow I might not be able to say sorry. It's crazy, bro. And that's what you really got to do with it every day.
One thing I like that you mentioned, and this question is for Sean and Wiggs, is how do you all view the power of now? So understanding that there's no past, no present, what you have to focus on is now. And the beauty of now is that if you're always focusing on what's happened in the past, if you're always focusing on where you are going, when did you take the moment to really think about and harvest the energy that you're experiencing right now in the moment? You walking down the street, you see a little girl running down the street with her mom, the beauty in that. You walking through a garden and you see a rose bloom, the beauty in that. Understanding that there's only now. Because what you're thinking about in the future once was now. What you're thinking about in the past once was now. So tell me about how you all are focusing, you two are focusing on now, always staying in the moment in your life.
I mean, it takes time for me, to be honest. I think it's something that you learn. As an entrepreneur, I think it's one of those things like, you got to go, you got to go. And I saw myself separating myself from things that were important to me, like family, right? I wasn't present. I wasn't there. I wasn't giving the support that my wife needed. And so even as I go into this whole transition phase into now being a dad, you know, I'm just like, yo, I do not want my business to run my life. And that's one of the things that you got to be intentional on. I think once you start to see that, then you start kind of like what Shah was talking about, see people that, you know, you want to emulate, right? What are they doing that I could do in order to be at that spot? And some of the things that I learned was balance as well. Like really understanding that as an entrepreneur, you got to grind. But if you want to be in your family, you got to grind there as well. So
keep the same energy.
And be exactly. I really like what you were saying as far as like what you give off, because like if I come in here and give off bad vibes, like everybody else,
it literally changes the energy of the room.
Exactly. So it's really important that you be intentional on both sides.
For sure, Sean.
Yeah, I think you got to be like to what Wiggs was saying, present in the moment. Like for me, like what I think about is like, who does this person need me to be before I walk into this room? I got that from 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So like, if I'm about to get out of the car, if I had a crazy little meeting and it went left, I ain't gonna bring that same energy to my wife. I ain't gonna bring that same energy to my daughter. But I want to bring it back to like, you know, something about manifestation. I think people don't set goals big enough. You know what I mean? And like, I always think about Nipsey Hussle. He had this lyric. He said, I reached every goal I ever set. I had to sit back down and rearrange that list. You know what I mean? And for me personally, you know what I mean? I've been running this podcast for like 2 years now. And like people I thought were big deals, I already had them. I already touched them. I already talked to them. I already got the phone number. So the goal wasn't big enough. So I think if you manifest anything, you got to make sure you manifest a bigger goal than you can imagine.
Now, baby, digging in your tool bag, because it's about, you know, it's about being in your bag. Like you have a bad day, you got to go in your bag. You're having a good day, you got to attribute that to. Well, I read this book last month. Or you know, you're having a bad day, you got to say, all right, what mantras, what meditation am I going to get into? So as far as mantras and meditations, how do you all incorporate those positive affirmations into your life?
Well, I was gonna say this, and it's in line with that. But I mean, if I'm pulling it out to like a 20,000 foot view, I think what is missing from a lot of our conversations about energy is infrastructure. You know what I mean? And so, okay, you have unharnessed energy is useless. You can't use it. You know what I mean? So you got people in the world who just gush positivity. It's just, I'm just positive. And I say, okay, but they haven't moved. So they're confused. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm positive everywhere I go. I'm supportive. Why doesn't it work? But it's not directed at anything, right? Like there's no intention or infrastructure or system for, which is what mantras really are, right? This is the mechanics of harnessing and deploying.
Deepak explains it like,
Also,
the mantra is the taxi that gets you to your destination.
There you go, right?
Also known as transmutation now.
Transmutation.
Same thing, right? Yeah. So then I think about, in conversations about energy, how do you build out the systems that get you from one place to another? When I say, okay, for example, in a very literal sense, if I want to start out my day being the best husband and father that I can, what system do I have in place for me, right? Is it my system to roll over and say, good morning, beautiful? Is that my system, right? Is it my system to go into my daughter's room and say, right? As opposed to, damn, I guess you up. You know what I mean? Like, I guess I gotta go be a dad today, you know what I mean? Even though I signed up for that. And so I think, Rashad, to your point, even about, kind of building backwards or planning backwards, a large part of being successful in that isn't just saying I'm gonna be positive for 30 years. Because it's a lot of positive poor people. You know what I mean? A lot of people who are positively alone. So what does that actually look like? And Wiggs, to your point, and to your point, Sam, I think you've been talking about, maybe yoga, I don't know. But about being around people or emulating people, a lot of what you can get from them, I think, oftentimes is their system. What are you doing? Not what do you think, not what do you believe, maybe not even what your goal is. Because we can shoot at the same goal and not hit it.
I think,
what are you doing?
I think that's the biggest thing with conversation is that we mentor these people who are in college and high school, whatever it may be. We talk to them about the topic, but we never go into the sub points of this is how you do it. The biggest thing about it too, though, is like, it's not really about how you do it, it's about how you gonna do it. How you gonna do it? How are you gonna do it? How are you gonna do it? Because for me, like, everybody has their own way of doing things. Like, Kobe talked about how he was in the gym at 3 a.m. He was in the gym at 4 a.m., 5 a.m., practice started at 7. But Shaq never worked out in the offseason. So even though they achieved some of the same goals, Shaq had his way of doing things, Kobe had his way of doing things. Like for me to stay grounded, I feel like I have to meditate twice a day. So when I wake up in the morning, before I get on the phone and get on Instagram and texting people back or whatever maybe, I meditate first thing when I hit the floor. Before nighttime, I try to meditate again to keep myself grounded. I'm reading books. I'm keeping positive. I'm locking in on goals. And the biggest thing, what I want to hear about before we wrap up is that, what are you doing in your goal writing? Right? Because Erykah Badu said, once you put pen to pad, that's how you manifest something into reality. So it's right now in your minds, right? It's okay to think like, you know what? I want a $500,000 house. But I want to put 20% down. That's a goal, right? But are you actually putting that pen to pad, and what are you actually doing in reality to get that? Are you paying off debt? Are you getting your credit score up? Like, faith without work is dead, right? You know what I'm saying? So
the part where I think a lot of people mess up is when they're getting back to that infrastructure, right? You got to go all the way back to the source. So say, I want to be a father, I want to be a husband. So I look at you, right? I'm like, okay, this is what he does, this is his system. And where people mess up, I think, is we have the system and say, waking up in the morning and then going to say, hey, good morning, beautiful, doesn't work for me. So now I'm like, his whole system don't work. You know what I mean? Where people need to go is take the things that work. You know what I mean? Read that book. Right. Something's going to stick out. Take those things that work and apply those and just see if it works. We got to get back into the practice of failure. Because the practice of failure is way better than when you intentionally set a goal and you fail.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, Rashad, Sean, and Wiggs, want you to wrap it up?
I like to say this. So in terms of like your mantra, so negative is already going to happen. You know that, right?
It's a natural part
of
life.
So it's a natural part of life. So the thing is like when you're talking about your mantra though, and what you're triggering your mind for, I watched this or I listened to this podcast with Jay Shanti. He was talking about energy, right? And he basically said that when you are constructing this infrastructure in your mind, like when you have a negative thought, you already like foresee that there's going to be negative thoughts, but you replace it with a positive one. So you already so for instance, if you want to be in a $500,000 house, imagine yourself already in the house, visualization, right? So you already are there. So now when you're walking towards that goal, you're literally knowing that negativity is coming, and you just shutting it down before you even go. So you just shedding off that block. But in terms of like what you were saying about like the whole movement towards that goal. In terms of that, like you gotta understand that negative is gonna happen. You always have to think positive. But in order to do that, you have to shape your mind to understand that you gotta keep moving forward because it's gonna happen.
So what's crazy, and just to kind of circle things up, I feel like, in essence, that as I've grown, right, my mantra over time has been a little bit different than what everybody else is comparatively. Because I think when you think about goals, you get a little bit of selfishness, right? But you actually got to be selfless. But mine is like, give more than you expect to receive, and you'll never be without. Right, and like I'm a living testament of that. Whether it's business, relationships, just anything, it's because I'm always giving.
Your hand is always open.
Yeah,
You're open to give, you're open to receive.
exactly.
And Sean?
I mean, mine's quite different. Everybody over here, like my mantras, man. To be honest with you, they rap lyrics. You know what I mean?
That's spirituality.
Like before this got started, you know what I mean? Like, yo, play that, forget that. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Spend 10 bands on denim. I did something random. My mantra, you know, I ain't been broke in a while. You know what I mean? That's my mantra. Or like might be like Joel Santana on The Last of the Best.
Right.
Because when I walk in the rooms, I gotta feel that way. You know what I mean? Because I don't ever want to be like looking at myself like second guessing. Every room you walk in, you're worthy of being in that room.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So my mantra is
More
rap lyrics. You know what I mean? I study the greats. You know, Ray Diallo, $18 billion, got behind Bridgewater. He interviewed guys like Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, all behind the scenes. You know, they really suffered at the lowest scores was caring about people. Not that they didn't care about people. Look what Bill Gates is doing, right? Look what these people are doing. They give all this money away. They care about people. They so focused on their goals. If you in the way, you in the way. You know what I mean? And that's how I am. You know what I mean? Besides that, it's really all family. You know what I mean? So my mantras will forever change. Somebody drop a new song, that's it.
That's a mantra. And you know, to sum it all up, I believe that we understand that the power of now is important. Understand that our manifestations, our energy is important, but where we tunnel that energy and funnel that energy is most important. I think some of the conversation is that lock in on your goals. Put your positive energy there. Negativity is going to come. Let it come. Let it flow out. But the work that you put in over time, the books that you've read, the meditation that you incorporated are investments into your mental health, into your overall energy and spirituality.
People not willing to do that.
People not willing to do that.
Knowledge share.
But guess what? If life on the wall, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're setting the tone.
Yeah.
You know?